Yes. Let's get into the origins of ignorance. Okay, let's just jump right into this question, because it feels completely backwards, doesn't it? We live in the age of information. I mean, we have instant access to practically all of human knowledge right in our pockets. So why does it feel like false beliefs and just plain old misunderstanding are actually on the rise?
And this, right here, is the central paradox we're going to unpack today. On one side, you've got the world's libraries at your fingertips. But on the other, we're seeing this explosion of misinformation and just superficial knowledge. How can both of these things be true at the exact same time?
To figure this out, we're going to follow the clues. First, we'll look at the paradox itself. Then, we'll dive into our environment, what we're calling the digital deluge. And we'll also look inward at the learning gap and the pressure on our minds. You're going to want to stick around, because at the end, we'll reveal the real culprit.
So, let's start our investigation. Part 1, the information paradox.
Here's the core of it. Having a ton of information isn't the solution. It's actually part of the problem. You see, when everything is out there, the truth and the lies just sit right next to each other. It suddenly becomes our job to sort through all that noise. And that, well, that's where things start to get really tricky. All that noise leads us directly to our second clue, the digital deluge. This is all about the online world we're basically swimming in every single day. And right away, you can see there's a huge imbalance. Correct, nuanced information, that takes real mental work to process. But false information, it's often designed to be simple, emotional, and super easy to share. Our brains are kind of wired to take the easy path, so guess which one we're often drawn to? And the way our digital world is set up just pours gasoline on this fire. Welcome to what they call the attention economy. The whole point of many of these platforms is just to keep your eyeballs on the screen for as long as possible. And the algorithms figured out that sensational, emotional, and polarizing stuff works best. Truth, accuracy, that's not always part of the business model. And a major side effect is that our attention spans are getting shorter, and that habit of deep, focused thinking starts to fade.
This brings us to our next clue. We're going to shift from the digital world outside to the world inside our heads. This is section 3, the learning gap.
You know, the reality is that many of us were educated for a world that just doesn't exist anymore. A world where information was scarce. School was often about memorizing facts, telling us what to think. But in today's world of endless information, the most important skill is knowing how to think. You know, how to analyze, question, and check your sources. Without that skill, we're kind of left defenseless. And this creates a really dangerous cycle. We live in this fast-paced world where a 30-second video often replaces a well-researched article. We snack on these little bits of information, these surface-level facts, and it gives us this satisfying little rush, this feeling of being in the know. But it's really a phantom knowledge, you know? It's missing the depth and context that real understanding needs.
Okay, now let's dig even deeper into our own psychology in section 4, minds under pressure. We all have this. It's a powerful, built-in feature of being human. It's called confirmation bias. We just naturally gravitate towards information that backs up what we already think. In the digital world, this creates these information bubbles, where we only ever hear echoes of our own ideas. It makes it incredibly hard to even consider, let alone understand, a different point of view. We each get kind of trapped in our own little version of reality. And on top of all that, you've got the reality of just living. Economic stress, social pressures, all of that eats up a huge chunk of our mental energy. When your mind is totally focused on just getting through the day, on survival, how much brain power is really left for the hard work of deep learning and critical thought? For most of us, not much. It just gets pushed to the back burner.
So, we've looked at the digital world, our education, and our own psychology. Let's bring it all together in our final section, the real culprit.
So what's the real issue here? You know, it's really tempting to just blame technology, the internet, social media, all of it. But the argument our source material makes is that the real problem is us. The problem isn't the tool itself, but our collective failure to develop the mental skills we need to use that tool wisely.
To put it simply, we've got these incredible, futuristic tools, but we're often trying to navigate this new world with an outdated mental toolkit. That huge gap between our powerful technology and our underdeveloped ability to question and choose, that's the real origin of modern ignorance.
And that brings us to the end. We've laid out all the clues, we've identified the culprit. The power here isn't really in blaming the system, but in upgrading our own thinking. So the final question isn't for me, it's for you. Knowing all this, how are you going to choose to navigate the flood? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.